Well, good morning. My name is Dow Constantine. I'm the King County Executive. I want to thank the Columbia Tower Club for providing this room because from this height, we can see exactly what we're going to be talking about today. You'll take a look out the windows today and you will see the Kelly Green or Emerald Green or perhaps Forest Green Cascade foothills. It's easy to take for granted that this landscape will be there with us forever. But it won't. Not without action on our part. Nearly 10 years ago, this county set an ambitious goal of protecting some 200,000 acres of working forest land in King County. We've made steady progress, but there was always one significant missing piece of the puzzle: the White River Forest in southeast King County. Today, I am pleased to announce that King County has reached an agreement to permanently protect 43,000 acres of working forest land in the White River Forest. Yes. And there's more. Breaking news. Within the last hour, the board of Hancock Timber has approved the purchase and sale agreement to preserve that forest. This is the largest piece of unprotected forest land remaining in King County. We will protect an area roughly twice the size of the city of Bellevue, covering nearly all the forested areas of the White River watershed in King County. This is an area, for those of you who are familiar with the trip to Crystal Mountain, that covers the eastern border of Enumclaw all the way out past Greenwater, which is the border with Pierce County, from the pickle factory to the Natchez Tavern. With the protection of the White River Forest, we will dramatically extend our green wall against sprawl and will surpass our goal of protecting 200,000 acres of working forests countywide. Today, I'm sending the council legislation to authorize $8.1 million in existing funding to complete the purchase of the development rights, which are valued at $11.1 million. The money is being held in the county's dedicated open space fund known as the Conservation Futures Program. The council last fall approved the other $3 million from the Conservation Futures funds and from the King County Parks levy, which is up for renewal this year and which I've asked the council to place on the ballot. Three other benefits of this important deal. We protect a key sector of our economy. Some 350 people make their living from the forest industry, our traditional economic base in the White River Forest. And that puts $3.5 million every year worth of timber revenue back into King County's economy. We protect vulnerable fish and wildlife species such as the Chinook salmon, bull trout, and the northern spotted owl. We address climate change. Forests in our region store more carbon than almost anywhere in the world. Nearly 1/3 of the climate pollution generated in Washington state is absorbed by our forests. Preservation of the White River Forest is one of the biggest conservation opportunities of the decade. Future generations will be able to enjoy the landscape we see out the windows of this building today for centuries to come. For this, I want to recognize the leadership and the partnership of the Hancock Timber Resource Group, and specifically its Senior Transactions Manager, John Davis, and CEO, Dan Christensen. Hancock is a leader in sustainable forestry and has a strong record of conserving sensitive forests. With this transaction, they have protected 470,000 acres of forest worldwide. And you want to know something else? More than 1/3 of that acreage is right here in King County. I want to acknowledge the leadership of people like Jim Ellis and Dan Evans, who fought and had the foresight and courage to push for open space protection and lay the foundation for the kind of work we're doing today. I want to thank people like Terry Lavender and Mark Johnson, who donate countless hours of their time and passion and expertise to overseeing our Conservation Futures program and ensuring that we spend these funds wisely, and they have joined us here today. I also appreciate the work of our local environmental community, many of whom are represented here today and who have helped this region stay focused on smart growth management and protection of working forests. And if I could just quickly go through and name some of the folks and organizations who are represented here today. Jessica Brand from Washington Conservation Voters, Cynthia Welty from Mountains to Sound Greenway, as well as Doug Schindler from Mountains to Sound Greenway. Patrick Mazza from Climate Solutions, Hillary Franz, the head of FutureWise, Rebecca Ponzio from Washington Environmental Council, and Peter Scholes from the Nature Conservancy, and also our partners at the State of Washington Department of Natural Resources, Doug McClellan. And none of this would have been possible without our remarkable King County staff. From the Department of Natural Resources, our director, Christy True, who's not able to be here today, but Bob Burns, her deputy, Becky Peterson, Darren Greavy, and Michael Murphy, and from our prosecuting attorney's office, because none of this is possible without lawyers, Attorney Pete Ramos. Timing is a major factor for Hancock. We appreciate our council's willingness to take up this legislation quickly. And in that vein, it is my pleasure to introduce to you two of our leaders in this area on the King County Council, Council members Larry Phillips and Reagan Dunn.
Well, good morning, and I wanted to welcome you to this momentous occasion. Thank Executive Constantine for his leadership on this and for his wonderful introductory remarks. It is a momentous occasion for all of us who care about these issues in King County and preserving the best of our quality of life. And on such a day when we're also pleased and proud and happy, bear with me as I take just a moment of poetic license, if you will, license to connect a couple of dots that normally wouldn't be connected. But I also, as serving on the King County Council, its chair for Transportation, Economy, and Environment, I also am a member of the Woodland Park Zoo Board of Directors. And this morning we had a lively breakfast fundraiser for the zoo. And we had a presentation, several different presentations, but one of the videos included a clip of a young staffer, some 15 years old, who is a volunteer at the zoo and doing spectacular work there. And she said, and I'm quoting now, and I thought this was inspiring, but also part of what we're doing here today. She said, "It is possible to do something bigger than your words. It may be difficult, but it's possible." And I thought that was a very inspiring quote coming from someone so young, dedicating a part of her life to what's going on at the zoo for conservation, animal care, and education. And I thought it applied directly to what we're doing here today. So when it comes to King County's open space preservation activities over the last couple or more decades, it is very true. We have been doing something, and we're doing something again today that is far bigger than our words. And we have built a spectacular open space legacy for King County that is bigger than the words that have been said so many times over the past couple of decades. It's been difficult. I don't think anyone would say it hasn't been, pulling together the funds to do so, again here with this proposal, but we've been able to achieve it with great help from our citizens who helped to lead the effort on that. And today's announcement, of course, builds on that legacy. So specifically with regard to the White River Forest, it continues a commitment to permanently protect what makes this place so special and all of us so proud to be able to call it home. Preserving in perpetuity our forested foothills of our cherished Cascade Mountains, and providing with this deal today enormous benefits that all of us will realize over time. First, in terms of forestry, it continues as a cornerstone of our economy, the ability to perform forestry on those lands. And in terms of habitat, it will continue our efforts to make sure that endangered and threatened species are getting the kind of care they need with the preservation of effective habitat. And as Executive Constantine mentioned, in terms of carbon loading, it is a fabulous opportunity to make a contribution to carbon sequestration as only we can do here in the Pacific Northwest. And of course, it preserves our natural heritage, our identity, if you will, of the place that we call home. Allowing us, of course, to grow with grace, to boast a quality of life that attracts jobs and great employers. Just read the headline in the Times today. And then, of course, provide a future that reflects the greatness of our place, our people, and, of course, our heritage. So, quick thank you to Hancock Timber, who has done a great job here and around the world globally on these preservation efforts. And I think, frankly, lends credence to what the young staffers said today, that we are able to do things that are bigger than our words. Thank you. And I want to introduce this time my colleague and vice chair for the Transportation, Economy, and Environment Committee, my colleague Reagan Dunn. All right.
Thank you, Larry. Well, thanks very much. It's good to be here, and I wanted to thank Executive Constantine, Councilmember Phillips, and all the stakeholders for their hard work to this point. I wanted to stand before you and show that there is strong bipartisan support for this proposal, and that I am going to push my colleagues on the County Council to approve this resolution expeditiously as possible. Now, this is an important piece of land. Not only is it in my district, the largest piece of privately held land in my district, but it has a lot of historical value for me. The bottom right-hand corner of that map, my grandfather, 60 years ago or so, built a small log cabin with his own hands out there. And so, as kids, we would use that area. We drove through it, I mean, countless times. And anyone who's been to Crystal Mountain knows that once you leave the city of Enumclaw all the way through Greenwater, and actually beyond Greenwater, is this piece of land. So it's a beautiful area. Lots of tourists come through there every year, and it's an important part of our timber industry as well. This agreement is a major step forward for all of us. As the only council member that lives in rural, unincorporated King County, I feel very close to the need for us to protect open space, and 43,000 acres is very substantial. Whether it's the preservation of this land or the White River Forest or the Raging River Forest that we preserved some years ago, King County and the County Council are demonstrating that our priorities are in the right place. This land protection deal ensures that the White River Forest remains a working forest and encompasses all the economic conservation principles that are important to thriving forest lands. It also not just preserves the working forest and the jobs that come along with that, but it also will allow residents to enjoy various outdoor activities such as hiking, horseback riding, hunting, and fishing. So it's gratifying to know that just an hour ago, Hancock Timber approved this. We're delighted to do that. I want to thank them, Hancock Timber, for playing ball with us on this important issue. And again, look forward to an expeditious passage of this legislation. Thank you.
And I missed in my introductions a couple of other DNRP, Department of Natural Resources and Parks staffers, Becky Peterson and Linda Holacek, and I want to thank them very much for their contributions. And we would be happy to take any questions, although we have the policy experts in the room who are probably much more able to answer them. Please, anyone.
I believe you indicated the purchase price is a little over $8 million, but the value of the rights is $11 million. How did you get to an agreement?
It's actually, the price is $11.1 million. In the previous budget, the council set aside $3 million toward that, so there's an $8.1 million balance, and the legislation I'm sending will reflect that.
Is there any development activity on the land now, and if so, what do you plan?
The buildings that are there will largely remain. What we're attempting to do is to keep this in working forest permanently so it's not converted to low-density housing. You can still build buildings in service of the forestry sort of priority on this land. So if there are small buildings that are required to carry out sustainable forestry, those are allowed. Recreation is also a permitted use under this agreement. So there are equestrian trails or hiking trails that will be able to be used by the public in perpetuity, consistent with that working forestry. So in areas where active forestry is going on, the property owner can close those off and make sure that people aren't endangered. But other than that, there will be the ability to use these 43,000 acres for people to just get out into the wilderness and enjoy. So that is the main impact of this in terms of buildings is to dramatically reduce the number of structures that we can constructed in this area, and we're very excited to have this next big step in our overall growth management effort for King County.
But there's no residential development underway there.
So that there will not be any further residential development in this area other than buildings that are directly related to the forestry use. Are there other questions? Okay, yes, Keith.
Given that this land is, I presume, in the forest zone, under King County zoning, could not be, again, developed in in an urban
Yeah.
fashion, or how important is it and how necessary, it's a follow-up. How big a difference does it really make to buy up the rights versus using zoning to protect the land?
Under the commercial forest zoning, which this land is in King County, you can have one house per 80 acres. So with 42,000 acres, you could put a lot of homes. Homes require infrastructure improvements. They require roads, driveways, bridges. And so this is a significant protection, I think, for that.
That's a very good answer.
And Keith, if you want a live example of that, if you talk to Jim Ellis about the Green River Valley, he was part of a group that totally zoned it back 30 or 40 years ago to be farmland, and you've seen the results of what's happened with zoning changes over time. So the actual purchase of the development rights it helps us with perpetuity.
And we quantify development capacity in terms of development rights, and my understanding is there's over 857 development rights that will now be pulled out of this 43,000 acres and will no longer be a threat to the working forestry and wilderness values. I want to thank everyone for being here today. This is a great day for the people of King County, and not just those who are here today, but those who will be here long after we all are forgotten. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you.